So welcome to MBA Education and Sales Boomerang presents Equity Entry Point, Shifting Today's Mortgage Opportunities from Purchase to Equity webinar. My name is Danielle Jackson, and I'll be facilitating today's session. Just a couple of things to note about the Zoom platform. You can bring up the chat box by clicking on the chat icon in the black bar located at the bottom of the screen. You may need to wiggle your mouse a little bit for this bar to appear, but once you click on the icon, a box should pop up, and this is where you can ask questions or make comments for the presenters during the webinar. We do also have the function of Q&A available as well. I'll be monitoring that so that we can answer your questions as we go along. At the end of the presentation, we will have a short survey, so please make sure you provide your honest feedback of what you thought of today's session, as it helps us to improve our future webinar offerings. Once the webinar has concluded, I will provide a link to today's recording along with a PDF version of today's presentation for your convenience. Now I'd like to introduce you to one of our presenters for today. We have Alex Kay from Sales Boomerang. Alex, the floor is all yours, and thank you all for joining us on today.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Before you go, I got a question for you. If this happens sometimes, we're having this really intense conversation and people on the call are like, oh my goodness, I wish this person was on with me, or I need to push this to my manager or my region. If they wanted to, is there a link they could send to someone that can join midstream?
Absolutely. So the link that they received in their confirmation letter and also in the logistics email for me today, if you want to forward that along, the more the merrier.
Beautiful. Yeah. So listen, thank you so much, Danielle. So look, as we get this thing going, there's going to be some firepower here, and you're going to want to think about, is there anyone on my team, anyone I know that could benefit from this live? Because we all know that live is the way to go. It's the most experiential. Sending links with videos, yes, some people watch, some people don't. But if you really want somebody to ingest all the energy that's about to come from this conversation, grab that link, send it out, invite them here, and let's help the community. Well, let's get the ball rolling here. Let me share my screen. Let me make sure I got it in presenter mode, and we're gonna rock and roll. Here we go. Boom. All right, equity entry point. We're talking about shifting today's mortgage opportunities from purchase to how do we talk about equity? And we have two of the best in the industry that you're about to hear from joining. And the key takeaways you can see right at the bottom, lower left-hand corner of what we're going to be talking about today, right? Learn and the value of equity, right? You guys are thinking like, Alex, what are you talking about? Learn. We know the value of equity, but how do you position that? How do you talk about it? How do you really teach someone about their equity and what the power of it is, right? Ways to discuss the value and tips to convert loans quickly, all things that are going to be extremely important in this environment. Danielle introduced me. I'm Alex from Sales Boomerang. On with me is the division president at Neo Home Loans, Josh Metal. Josh, thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure, buddy. Looking forward to hanging out with you all and sharing some ideas in the next hour.
Absolutely. And of course, this man needs no introduction. We have the legend, Dave Savage, here with us. Thanks, Dave, for coming on.
It's good to be here, and I'm excited about the conversation.
And you win the prize for best background today. You win the prize.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yes. Look,
you win the prize for most innovative background.
Yes, I am actually at Reagan National Airport in one of the lounges here doing this. So that is true. And as Josh mentioned, it looked like I'm in an office right now. So inspiring people to get back out there into their offices. So let's get things started with getting you involved. If you're listening right now, if you've just turned it on and you turned away and you're doing something else, look at the screen. We have a poll coming up. Let's get you involved. The poll question is, are you here because you are not hitting your volume goals? Let's populate that poll and let's see what the audience has to say. Let's throw it on screen. So who is running the poll? There we go. We got it. We got it. Perfect. Are you here because you're not hitting your volume goals? Let's give everyone a little bit of time to think this through for just a second. I know it's a yes or no question. We want the majority of you, all of you, 100% of you to answer. So take a look at your screen, answer this question. Believe me, it gets you engaged. When you get engaged, you are engaged, okay? You're listening, you're a part of this conversation. You signed up for this for a reason. Take full advantage of it, okay? Do not lose the opportunity to get the most out of this conversation and to give back to your team at the same time. All right, let's give it 10 more seconds and let's wrap this up and see what we have to say. Are you here because you're not hitting your volume goals? Let's see what people said. Going to get some results populating on screen here in just a second. You know how things take a little time to wrap up on this side. Here we go. Boom. 40% said yes, I'm here because I'm not hitting my volume goal. And no, 60% said no, I'm not here because of that. Okay, fantastic. This is great. We have a nice little mix here. And so there is something for each of you. So pay attention. I know there's a big mix of an audience here. We have some originators on here. We have some owners, some CEOs, some presidents, vice presidents. There's something for each of you here. So stay tuned. Let's start asking some questions and start giving you guys some content. What are some ways, this is to you, Josh, Dave, of course. What are some ways borrowers can use the home equity in their homes? Josh, let's start with you.
Well, let's take a step back, if you don't mind, Alex. Let me start with the premise or my personal belief that borrowers, Americans, don't know how to use equity. They certainly don't know how to use leverage to create wealth. So I think that's the fundamental starting place that I want to start with. And it's our duty to help them understand how do they use their equity, how do they use leverage when appropriate and cash flow positive to actually move the family forward in their economic situation and towards retirement. So what are some of the ways they can use home equity in their homes? Well, I think it depends on the client's situation, whether they're behind in their retirement. We do a lot of work with doctors and medical professionals, and they don't get out of higher education until they're almost 40. And by the time they get there, they're $250,000 or $500,000 in debt. They haven't saved for retirement. Oh, and the home that they owned was an 800 square foot condo that their spouse has been, killing them that they need to get out of because they now have 4 kids. So there's a lot of ways to use that leverage or use that equity, but I think we need to understand what the client's situation is. I think that starts a really good interview and really talking to that client to find out what their objectives are and where
what should somebody ask? Let's give somebody a real quick tip here. Like, so for instance, there's an obvious thing about equity, right? There's some people like, oh, well, that's easy. Let's just debt consolidate, right? Like that seems to be the easiest thing.
Yep.
But you just mentioned something completely different, right? Hey, it's for retirement. What questions should someone ask to figure out where and how they should use the equity for that person?
I'm glad you nailed on that. I think the low-hanging fruit and good loan officers do this. They will look at a credit report and they'll identify that there's some high payments on that credit report and possibly that they can create cash flow in the family's budget. And that's a good loan officer.
Yes.
But great loan officers, Alex, great loan officers help that family understand once they free up that cash flow, where should it go? And or where could it go? And furthermore, do they have the right relationships with a financial advisor or someone for life insurance, somebody that needs disability insurance, somebody that has a plan that they need to get out of debt. Maybe they own a business and right? So we need to figure out what the client's situation is so we can help them place that capital in the right direction and make the introduction to the financial professional that can really help them down that path. But we have a series of questions that includes, where are you in your retirement funding? Do you have a budget? Are you investing? Do you have a financial advisor? Are you or have you thought about real estate as it relates to lowering your tax bracket and becoming more efficient? There's a whole series of what we call the dreams and goals call, which is the first interview where we help to try to figure those things out. And then from there, we can start giving advice. How do you leverage that equity?
So real quick, let's unpack that for just a minute. And then Dave, I want to hear you chime in on this. Remember, this is a mixed group of people here. So that was just a recipe for extreme success. I love how Josh just did that. He said a good loan officer, which a lot of CEOs, owners who are on the call, presidents, VPs, and a lot of the originators themselves went like this, brushed their shoulders off. They're like, that's me. I'm a good loan officer. And then Josh hit you with a great loan officer. And everyone's like, oh, shoot, am I good or great, right? So first of all, you want to be great. And you just heard the process that Josh puts his team through. The team, what is he teaching his team? How does he recruit the team that's going to believe in the philosophies that he just mentioned? And he starts the conversation not with, what rate are you at today? No, right? Starts the conversation with goals and where are you and what are you doing for yourself? How is everything else in life? Why is this part of your narrative today, right? That's what he's talking about. So take that, write that down. It's a fantastic note to understand there's a process to talking to consumers in all markets. And in this one specifically, the more questions you're talking about them and their families and their life and their future, the more likely you have someone that goes, this person really understands me, right? And they're not just going to try to sell me a loan that I'm qualified for. They're going to show me a path to wealth, right? Dave, any thoughts?
So first of all, I think everybody knows it is common knowledge that first-time home buyers, one of the biggest things that they're confused about is how much they need for a down payment. And so there's a tremendous amount of confusion for that. So guys, it is safe to assume that 90 to 95% of homeowners, they don't know what moving up looks like. They don't know
Right.
what moving down looks like. They don't understand how to leverage their equity. So one, make sure those part of your questions should always be how, what are your real estate goals? How do you want to build wealth with real estate? Is it just you want to have a forever home? Do you want to look at investment real estate? A lot of people, though, when it comes to looking at investment real estate, they think like, oh, I don't have enough income. They don't realize that the income from the property can help you qualify. College students can buy duplexes and triplexes. So I think one of the most important things every person on this call needs to listen to is when you're an executive, make sure that your loan officers are not just focused on transactions,
Exactly.
which most loan officers are. They need to focus on, I want to help families build wealth with real estate over time. I want to be that forever lender, that forever loan officer. That means you need to help. The most important thing is helping people manage their equity and manage their liabilities. We'll talk about both throughout the call, but if you could just get that concept that if you're a mortgage professional of the future, it's about learning how to manage equity, optimize equity to achieve your goals. And sometimes that is a debt consol refi. Sometimes that is a home improvement. But I think as an industry, we've come to think about equity as just that. And in today's market, agents need help getting listings. So they need you to help unlock equity to create listings for move up buyers, move down buyers. And the more you can manage equity, the more you can help agents.
I love that. Super powerful note. And again, this is a good time right now. You're starting to hear the content, the passion that we're putting into this. If you have someone on your team that needs to hear this, get a link out to them right now. Get them here live. Let them ask some questions. I know there's some questions going in. Dylan, I see you're super active on the chat. We will get to you. And some of these questions, please continue to chime in and be part of the conversation. Let's go to the next question here. And this is tied directly to what we were just talking about. And so, how can you use tappable equity with your referral partners? This is exactly where Dave just started to, Dave often uses the quote, know where the puck is going, right? He knew where the puck was going. So how can you use tappable equity with your referral partners? How does that help? Dave just mentioned agents need to unlock equity so that these borrowers can use it to make purchases, make investments. Josh, talk to us about how you and your team, because you guys are so organized and so purposeful. All right. As you guys listen to Josh talk, understand that there's no accidents in Josh's process. Everything is methodically thought out, including the training, the daily practices, the communication, the questions. And so just pay close attention to how he's going to sort of articulate this concept. How can you use tappable equity to help referral partners? And let's also answer why we should help our referral partners.
I think there's two answers to that, Alex. The first thing is, when we talk to clients, their assumption is that if they're going to move up or even move down, that they're going to take all of the equity out of that home and they're going to use it as a down payment. And in some instances, especially with a move up, that can actually limit their purchasing power. So one of the things we talk a lot to our realtor partners about is we need to be at all times educating our realtor partners is if you have a client that's moving up, and especially in this environment with higher interest rates, and let's say they're putting a 30, 40, or 50% down payment, well, maybe that's the best place for that capital, but have also considered, and let's assume that that money is going to be tax-free because it's a family moving 500,000 or less. Have you also considered liberating some of that capital so that you can pay off those student loans, or you can pay off the credit cards or the other installment loans that are going to have larger payments because they have either higher interest rates or shorter amortizations. So oftentimes we can take somebody who's moving 300,000 and they assume they're going to put down a 40 or 50% down payment, and we can show them how to put 20% down. And then we can use the rest of the funds to pay off all their other liabilities. And they actually end up with a lower debt to income ratio, enable them to either qualify for more or just feel more comfortable getting to that higher purchase price because we've allocated that capital to a different place. And that goes back to the questions. It goes back to the questions. If I don't know, Alex, if our teams don't know when you want to retire, what do you see as your financial hurdles? What's your plan for retirement? Are you working with, if we don't know any of that stuff, then we really don't have permission to step into their lives and start to tell them, look, you told me that this was your objective and this is what you want to accomplish. Consider this strategy. Consider this strategy. This one's going to get you to where you want to go faster. So that would be number one, figuring out how much of that equity that you want to lose. Or you want
let me just for 1 second, Josh, just for that, keep that number 2. Don't lose that number 2.
I got it.
So that's right. So the number one thing, again, it goes back to understanding the borrower, right? How can you prescribe something if you don't understand what's happening in their life? And that prescription is going to help the referral partner also understand that when you have a referral partner that refers someone to you, you know how good it looks on that referral partner when they're being taken care of the way Josh just described. They go back to the referral partner and say, thank you. You could have introduced me to anyone. That was a really good introduction. Thank you so much. I've had previous experience that weren't so good, right? So number one goes back to that questions about the person, not the phone rings. I'm interested in the mortgage. What rate are you at? Stop it, right? Okay, what's your goals? What are you doing here? What are you doing there? Really starting to plan for the consumer with them, right? So fantastic. Love number one. Let's go to number 2.
Yeah, the second one that came to mind, Alex, is talking to realtors around re-engaging past clients and helping us do an equity analysis for them. I was reading a report that said that when clients hit, I think it was actually something you put out on your website, Alex. It was a white paper of yours, I believe, that when they hit something like 65% loan to value, they have 35% equity, they're more likely to transact. And that makes a ton of sense because we can cover real estate commissions. We can put 20% down, assumably, on a higher priced home. So when a client hits 35% equity or 65% loan to value, then the realtor and the mortgage advisor should be getting together to go back to that client and saying, Alex, brilliant job, dude. You put down 5% and you now have 35% in equity. Do you realize that that was a 1,000% return on investment? Because you got the appreciation of the entire asset, not just the 5% you put down. You now have 35% in equity worth $300,000. Have you thought about unthawing that equity? Have you thought about utilizing it towards retirement or investments or moving up or moving down or funding wedding plans or college funds? What are you doing to leverage that equity to build wealth? And then you start going, haven't thought about it, but there's about 10 things that I'd like to accomplish from a financial standpoint. Let's do an equity analysis. Let me re-engage Dave, your realtor, so he can do a CMA for you to make sure we hit the value right. And then we'll come up with some ideas and get on a Zoom together. So that would be the second way to bring the realtor back in and leverage that equity to create a relationship and connection again.
Oh my goodness. So, go ahead, Dave. And then I have a thought.
Yeah, I want to weigh in, guys. So if you're in leadership, it has never been more important that you expand the role of your mortgage professionals. They need to be advisors. They need to be the captain of the wealth team. And as an industry, we wait until people want transactions. And equity is a data point. How much equity does someone have? Their age is a data point. I mean, financial planners know that people at certain ages start thinking about their second home. So the equity, the age, let's bring a second home conversation to them. There are ages in which people start thinking about moving down. There are ages when someone bought their first home and that you want to have a move up. Like, guys, we need to, as an industry, start bringing the conversation to the consumer that based off of data, we've got big data. We're intelligent. We've been doing a lot of loans. We know when people are likely to transact, and we need to bring that advice to them and write that down. If you're listening to this, you're an executive, captain of the wealth team, Start thinking about how many loan officers do I have that embody that. They know how to manage equity, they know how to manage debt, and then we need to institutionalize that knowledge within our mortgage platforms. Gone are the days where we could just be transactional. Because let's face it, rates aren't great. There's a lot of online competitors. There's disruption taking in both real estate and mortgage. We need to use data. We need to use strategies, and we need to bring ideas to consumers. And a lot of what we're talking about today fits under that theme. Back to you, Alex.
I love it. I love it. And
Can I
go
say
ahead,
one
Josh.
thing on that, if you don't mind, Alex? You bring up a
Bring
really,
it.
you bring up a really solid point, Dave. I've been telling and sharing with our teams that in this industry right now, you either act or you are acted upon. And there is no neutral, team. You're either in forward or reverse. And what I mean by that is, it took me less than 10 minutes to read through my stock blog that I go to be solicited by 3 different mortgage advertisements.
Wow.
As I drove down I-15, I saw 6 different lenders on the, with their rates up along the side of the freeway. Our past client database, which is our biggest asset and the people that we should be interested in helping the most, maybe outside of our clients, inside of our companies and our teams, or our teammates, I mean. I call them our clients too. We think of our teammates as clients as well.
I love that. Write that down too, guys. If you're running, listen to how Josh said that. That's your team is your client. Keep going. I love these little nuggets are everywhere.
But they're the outside forces of all those people marketing through the mobile devices and on our computer screens and on the billboards. They're acting upon us every single day to take our past clients. So it's then inherent upon us to act and reach out to those past clients. And if we're not engaging them, if we're not reminding them about the realtor's position in helping them manage the equity, if we're not helping them understand how to use leverage and equity, then we are going to be acted upon. I'm going to share my screen for just 1 second because I just want to illustrate a point, Alex. This is our CRM system. So one of the things that we put together was a list of questions that we want our loan officers to ask. This is a brand new record that came in, and throughout our process, we will have either the mortgage advisor or what we call a client success manager schedule a call to go through these questions. And so my call to action for leaders out there is, don't just listen to this and think it's a cool idea. Like, come up with 5 or 6 questions that we know we should know about our consumers to serve at a super high level and to give advice. And let's build them into our CRMs. I don't care if it's built into a piece of paper, but we should have some leadership around gathering the information we need in order to give super impactful advice.
100%.
One more thing. I got to jump in, Alex, because John put a comment about reverse mortgages. And guys, that's another thing, with the stock market taking the hit that it's taken, let's face it, if you are a consumer and you're living off your interest income, this is not the time you want to be selling stocks. And so you're going to see a lot of folks that want to revisit that reverse mortgage conversation, or they want to revisit that. It's one of the things I love about Sales Boomerang, no borrower left behind. We will make sure we give you a reverse mortgage alert. We will give you those alerts. So I just want to call out for every mortgage professional, you need to understand how the stock market is impacting your family, because that puts more value on equity, and it puts more value as mortgage professionals, how we can help them strategically leverage that equity.
Yeah, and so and I love that, Josh, first of all, I love the point that you just made. Absolutely. Get the notification so you don't have to guess, when somebody has that benefit, and deliver it timely. But to Josh's point, and we're about to go to the next question here, to Josh's point, you saw the list of questions, okay? Very important. If you're managing a team, there's a process. Let's not let people just shoot from the hip all the time. Give people a process and let them build on top of a proven process. The other list of questions I recommend everyone have is exactly how they would utilize their equity. Are you planning, anyone in your family getting married, kids, are you planning to do this, and this? Have a list of questions that once you talk to someone and you kind of see what they may be into, right? Be like, all right, I should ask these 5 questions: retirement, investment property, vacations, paying for whatever it is. So because sometimes, actually not so often, people don't even know what's possible. They don't even, their mind isn't even there. They think they're just, think about this statement. They're just getting a mortgage. Just. No, it's a financial vehicle. And so it is up to us to make sure that our clients, our borrowers see that. This conversation is, if you just heard the first half of this call, you've already gotten so much value in ways, the ones that are looking to drive volume, you just heard a bunch of techniques on how to drive that volume, right? All right, poll question. Do you know how many of your customers are sitting on tappable equity right now? This is the mountain of wealth question right here. Do you know right now? Be honest, this is the only way this gets really good for you. And if you're looking away, looking at your text messages or got distracted, come back to the screen for just a moment. This is key. Do you know how many of your customers are sitting on tappable equity right now? And I would even throw in how much of that tappable equity is available to them. Do you know this? What an amazing question. Powerful question. This is about knowledge. This is about the modern mortgage lender and the modern mortgage market. Okay. We need to know these things. I want to know how many of you actually know how much tappable equity you guys have. How much tappable equity do you have, right? Do you know what's happening in your own life, right? So how can you take that information and help others? Let's see what the answers are to these questions. I'm going to be really, really interested to see yeah. Okay. Kind of what I was expecting, a little bit even more yes than I would imagine. So 30% of you say yes, I do know. 70% of you say no, you don't know. The ones that do know, congratulations. That definitely gives you a leg up. Josh, how important, and we're going to get into this. How important is it to know? Like, I mean, it's as simple as, how important is that to know what's happening with your customers and specifically in this market with their equity?
Well, I'll go back to my previous statement. I just have a fundamental belief that people they're just not taught. This isn't taught anywhere unless they went for a higher degree in economics or finance. They came from the ideology that the path to wealth is to only pay off debt.
Yes.
And I have to challenge that and say, I think that's the path to middle class. And I don't know if you're watching what's happening to the middle class, but they're not doing that great. So we need to also be able to educate them what they can accomplish. And I have a total cost analysis that I want to share to illustrate this, but what they can accomplish with an alternate path. Ultimately, it's up to them. But our job is to paint that picture. So to answer the question, we want to be doing equity analysis for the client when they hit specific loan to values. So when a client we financed at 97%, hits 80, of course, we want to be reaching out to them. When a client that we financed at 90 or 80 hits 65, we want to be reaching out to them again. And then annually, over the last couple of years, since appreciation's gone parabolic, I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, and the appreciation rate's been 33, 34% over the last couple of years. We should be doing equity analysis for those clients every year, if not every 6 months, just reaching out to them, letting them know they have all that wealth. I was talking to a client the other day, and she said, I'm thinking about just selling my house and sitting on the cash. And I said, okay, let's do a Zoom and talk about the history of inflation. I showed her the chart of what you could buy for $1 in 1971. I showed her, depreciation. But we got to be having these conversations with people because they just don't know. They don't have the fundamental knowledge. And that's what I think our job is right now.
So how many of you, put into chat, thumbs up, you can give a little icon, however you want to do it. How many of you have had that exact same conversation with a consumer that says, I'm going to sell and just sit on cash, right? Like, how many of you? Probably a ton, even if you're not responding to it right now, probably a ton, probably a weekly thing that happens inside the industry right now.
You know what's funny, Alex? I had a financial advisor that I was talking to, and he had a client say that to him. He didn't know the answer. He's like, I didn't know how to respond. He's like, I don't have a clue. I don't have any data point to answer that question. And I'm like, we're in serious trouble.
Oh my goodness.
Advisors don't know how to answer that question. We're in trouble.
Yes, guys. And this is happening a lot. And a lot of people would say, I'm telling you right now, you may not admit it, but a lot of people would say, that's a great idea, not knowing what they're actually saying.
Well, and maybe she's going to move in 18 months. And maybe she's straddled with debt, and maybe that's a fantastic idea.
Exactly.
Or maybe she's going to be there for the next 12 years. That's why we got to ask the questions that are built into our CRM.
Yes. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. We got some firepower coming up here towards the end of this conversation. Really cool stuff to share, like game-changing type of things. Let's get closer to that. How do I get repeat business from my clients? This is important. How do you do it? Let's talk to everyone about how do we get repeat business? Because as you said, your most valuable asset is your customer base, right? And by the way, let's make sure we understand what customer base is. Customer base isn't just a person you did a loan for. That's part of your customer base. But your pipeline, the people you're talking to right now, that's your customers too, right? The people that you actually had to say no, unfortunately, you're not qualified for that loan today. That is a customer too. And those people that you've reached out to that haven't picked up the phone, haven't responded to your message yet, but you've reached out to, they're on your list and you've made a conscious attempt to provide a service to them, those are your customers too, okay? Because they've seen your store, they've heard your message, they haven't responded yet. So how do you get repeat business? We can start with the ones that makes the most sense for everyone on this call, which is the people you've done loans for, but how do you retain and get repeat business?
Well, let me answer it as it relates to Paul's question. Paul said, I'm a newer LO. I don't have a lot of past clients, but doing a proper fact finder can show a lot of opportunities. Yeah, so I'd answer that, Paul, and I'll answer your question, Alex, by saying people won't care about what you're telling them until they understand that you actually care about them as a human. And so when we have that initial call, with them, where we call it a goals and dreams call, we're asking them the normal loan officer questions. Tell me about how you'd rate your credit, how you would rate, how much down payment, where is this your first home, right? We're going through all that kind of stuff to get the general view. And then we'll say something to them like, look, Alex, do you mind if I ask you a couple deeper questions that are probably going to catch you a little bit off guard, because nobody's ever, especially in the mortgage world or real estate world, has ever asked these questions. But I have a personal belief that if I'm going to help you get into the largest debt of your life, I should know a little bit more about where you're going, by when you want to arrive there, and how I can help you. Are you cool if I ask a few more questions?
Right. Yes, of course.
Nobody ever says no to that, by the way.
That's right. Never.
And then we just go through that list of questions. So Paul, I would say find a series of questions that are deeper than the surface level.
Yes.
Find out where that person's goals are in terms of financial goals. Think of yourself as the captain of the wealth team, and your job is to figure out how you can help them get there. And so your question is, how do we get repeat clients? It starts with that very first call, because that person hangs up on the other side and they go, that was a very different experience. I've never had an experience like that before. You immediately stand out. And then you build a proposal that matches what they told you their goals was, and you show them how to get there. And Paul, you're going to get people to come back to you forever. You don't need a past client database to do that. You just need to have that deeper, what we call, the goals and dreams call up front.
And even though you do those things, Josh, there's more to repeat business and recapturing the business from your customer. It's those questions, absolutely. And by the way, there was an amazing, let me stop sharing this screen for 1 second. It was amazing. I just wanted to see it. Dave wrote, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I love that. Right? And that's a fantastic question. But besides that, an amazing start with questions, you also are, this is, guys, what you're about to see is really awesome. You're about to see some math, some really cool, interesting concepts. You're using the methodology of caring and asking deeper questions and connecting and making sure that you're keeping your referral partners in mind as you're doing all this, which is what's made you so successful. And you're also investing into technology. You talked about a CRM you just had, and you don't think about business as a transaction. You're looking at it as a relationship, right? So we know that on average, consumers are going to have about 11 mortgage and real estate related transactions in their life, right? And so it is so important to realize, okay, just remember this. So important to remember that it is not a transaction. It is a relationship, only because we know nearly 99% sure that the person that you're doing work with today will absolutely have another mortgage or real estate related transaction in their lifetime. So if we know that, we have to start thinking about how do we support our mission of being there for them. I want everyone to think about this. Write this down. You've all said for life. Ever since I got to this industry, all I've heard you say is customer for life, customer for life. I want you all to just for a second, what would it look like the other way around? It would sound like my forever lender, my financial friend, my BFF, my best financial friend. Okay. That's what it would look like. You want your borrower, your customer to say, that's my lender. That's my financial friend. That's who I work with. It's your job to get them to say that. Josh is giving you the recipe to get them to say those things. But now to support that recipe, you need some technology, you need some automation, you need some support. So let's get into that part of the conversation here. You've done this. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I see Dave wants to say something. Go ahead, Dave. Yep. Oh, great point, Dave. Really, really good. Just solid.
You're muted, Dave.
You're on mute. Yeah. You're still on mute for some reason, Dave. That's
Sorry, buddy. Your audio just killed out.
yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There it is.
Now we got you.
Back to the next slide real quick. I want to call something out. Guys, here's a super important point. Is we as mortgage professionals, we can bring more value to realtors than we're bringing right now. So every one of those stars is an actual real estate transaction. So I want you to realize that if you're going to follow through and execute on everything we're showing you, guys, we can make the case that, hey, real estate agent, yeah, you want to do business with me because I close loans on time, I give great communication, and I keep all my promises. Guys, those are table stakes. The lender of tomorrow, the forever lender who creates the forever realtor, they have their hands on this. So remember, I want you to also start thinking about every customer you have, where am I entering the story at? Like, I want you to think about how many homes have they purchased? Oh, this is your third home. Oh, this is your second home. Put that in your CRM. And how many homes do you think you're going to buy to have that dream home? Oh, put that in your CRM. Oh, and is it a goal to have a second home or a third home? Or is it a goal to have investment properties? Guys, we need to know where people are at in the story. And then we need to think beyond just mortgage professionals and mortgage transactions. We need to think about real estate transactions, listings, move up buyers. Because if you can start thinking about that and you can start looking at those stars, guys, you're going to become essential to the real estate industry. You're going to recruit realtors in this market like there's no tomorrow.
No question. And by the way, for all of you listening that haven't tuned in to Dave's sessions and interviews, these are the types of things he covers. So make sure you guys follow Dave and check out the channel as educational.
YouTube channel. Type in mortgage coach on YouTube. Make sure your loan officers are watching at least one a week. Let's go.
Yep.
Incredible.
No question. No question. All right, here we go.
So
Josh.
Alex, this is a presentation that we built for our realtor partners. And just as you started, I start that presentation and I say, let me tell you my experience of my very first transaction buying a home. I saw this guy's card. It said, I'll tell you the abridged version. It said you're realtor for life. And I thought that means he was going to come over after the transaction for barbecues. We were going to hang out and drink cold ones together. Literally, Alex, this is not an exaggeration. The moment I left the closing table, I never heard from him again for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And I said, raise your hand if I could have been your client. And 70% of the audience raises their hand. They're like, well, yeah, we kind of send postcards sometimes. And I'm like, look, we have to quantify, first of all, what your database is worth. So get out your phones. This is the only time it's okay to do your phones. Let's go through this right now. And let's answer the question. Are you building a transactional business? Are you building a relationship business? Let's be honest with one another. And then I go through this. I said, the statistic, every homeowner moves every 10 years, meaning 10% of your database. How much is your database worth? How many people do you have in your database? 10% per year. How many is that? What's your average GCI? What is that annual value of your past client database if you were nurturing it and creating a relationship business versus a transactional business? And then I call on people, how much is it worth? And they go, I'm like, how much did you get off your database last year? 2 deals. And I'm like, cool. And then if there's real loan officers in the room, I go, okay, now we do the math, right? And then we go through the whole thing. So the first part is just to help people realize that their biggest asset, and this is the takeaway from this slide,
Yes.
the biggest asset I have are the names, phone numbers, email addresses, and information inside my CRM. Period. That is
Period.
the biggest asset that I have if I'm building my business right. So once we get, realtors start to realize like that, they're like, cool, how do I do that? Like what are the steps to get there? So let's go to the next slide. So this is another slide that we walk realtors through, and we go, look, team, if you think of the commitment to a client that you're going to be with them for 30 years, for the life that they're going to be in this mortgage, let's say, then the shopping portion of that 30 years is 0.408%. The closing timeline, the 30 days for closing, is 0.272, and the pre-approval is 0.018. That means you're with them 0.68% of 1%, 0.68 of 1% of their entire journey. What are we doing to bring value to that client for the 99.302% of the rest of the 30 years of that client's journey? That's what we need to be focused on. That's the only thing we need to be focused on, is how we stay relevant and continue to add value. Then we share with our realtor partners. We say, listen, our just cause, and this is ours, this isn't yours, you got to have your own, but our just cause is to spread financial literacy, help people on their journey towards their retirement, their successful retirement, and in doing so, build better communities.
Yes.
That's a pretty cool mission. And when that's your heart and soul, your just cause, calling people and talking about their equity and giving them advice and helping them get towards their goals is just fun, right? It's just like game on. I get to go call a bunch of people and spread financial literacy today. So this is part of that realtor presentation, how we're incorporating both, sales boomerang and bringing that as a value add to our realtors. Then we walk them through. This is another one of our realtor slides. Alex, thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
And we just walk through and we go, look, here's what the Neo experience is. Here's what you can expect when you work with one of our mortgage calls. We have a client success manager who calls the client after closing to check in and make sure everything's good. They got their first payment letter. They call at 3, 6, and 12 months as they ramp up. We do an annual financial review or an annual equity analysis every single year. And then we go through all of these things that makes us different. And I said, to us, we have whiteboarded what a relational experience looks and feels like. This is it. How is this currently comparing to what you're doing to your past client database post-closing?
Yes. I mean, so everyone look at how clear and transparent Josh and the team are. This isn't something they're keeping to themselves. They're taking advantage of their advantages. Okay. So many of us in the space don't take advantage of our advantages. We hide the things we have. We hide the resources, the tools, how we're able to help people. No, wear it like a badge of honor. I'm using this technology to help me do this, which is going to help you, Mr. and Mrs. Realtor. I'm using this technology to do this, which is how it's going to help you, Mr. and Mrs. Borrower. I have equipped myself with resources, with technology, with computing, with partners that are going to help you, and me become your forever lender. That is the goal, right? To be that financial friend for you moving forward. And you can see right here all the different ways that as an agent, I go, I don't even know if anyone I work with does any of these things. I just kind of refer business to people and hope things work out. No, I promise you they're not doing that right now. I promise you your agent aren't just referring people to anyone. They're referring their customers to someone they trust will take care of them and get them through the process and make them smile at the end. Believe me, it's not just raining down deals right now, right? So you got to be purposeful. And this is purpose, okay? Dave, anything you want to add to this? Or Josh, any more color?
Just real quick, guys. So anyone who's a leader on this call and your manager on this call, I want to make one of the things that you do is come up with your 17 services that you provide. That was the number up there. They had 17 little boxes. And here's another thing that's kind of cool is Mr. No Bar Left Behind. 9 of those 17, you need sales boomerang or mortgage coach to do. You need to have a advice-based presentation to deliver some of these services. You need to have borrower intelligence to deliver these. So there's 17 things. What are the things that your company brings to bear? And remember, not just to close the transaction. You know, we know you need an LOS, you need a pricing engine, you need a point of sale. That's transactional services. That's not value add. That's just table stakes to be in the business. But what are the services that you're providing beyond the transaction? Remember, that 99.5% of the life, if you want to be the forever lender, what are the services? And then do you institutionally, at an enterprise level, do you have technology deployed? At an enterprise level, have you trained your team? Here's the deal, guys. The lenders that have the most mortgage coaches,
Yes.
powered by sales boomerang CRMs, are gonna kill it in this market. So come out of this. What are your 17 little services? Make your own box, write it down. Do you have the right technology to execute this? And are you training people so that you can really execute on what Josh just shared? Anyways, back to you guys, but I love this slide and I love what you're doing, Josh.
You're making a great point. And Dave, if I could find this slide real quick, I will, because Dave is making an excellent point about this market and what's going to happen when you have a sales boomerang powered CRM, you have a digital presentation with Mortgage Coach. There's a real, Dave isn't just saying this just to say it. There is a slide, and I don't want to take up too much time, so I won't do it right now on here. But I have a slide that talks about just last week, KP from PRMG said the biggest May in the history of their company wasn't in 2020 or 21. It was in 22. It was this past May. The biggest volume month in the history of their company in May was this past May. And of course, they're utilizing intelligence and they're utilizing presentation. That is just a fact.
So guys, and I know I'm jumping a little ahead here, Alex, but
Okay.
I want to make this point right now. Guys, this is what most of your databases look like. This is what your loan officer's database looks like. This is what every real estate agent's database looks like. And here's the deal, guys. Rocket, Zillow, online providers, they have intelligence. They have alerts. But you know what they don't have? They don't have all the alerts. They don't have the best alerts. And they don't have the digital advice-based presentations automatically created. So there's just never been a better time that you can make sure that you can, one, you don't want to be flying blind in this market. You know, this is not a market where you're flying blind and you don't have the night vision goggles. Your loan officers need the night vision goggles. They need to know who's got equity, what ages, what life events, so that they can just have better conversations. So sorry for stealing a little of your thunder there, Alex.
No.
Slides to come. But the timing in this conversation, we've only got 10 minutes left. We need to make sure everyone connects the dots on that.
No, you're hitting the nail on the head. Remember, this is what we're here for. You can't help someone use their equity unless you know they have equity. You can't help someone take advantage of their tappable cash that's inside their house without understanding what's happening in their life. And what Dave is suggesting, and Josh, I'd love to hear how you got utilizing this intelligence too. And what Dave is suggesting is don't guess. Okay, he's saying the best in the country. No, right? And he just mentioned those two names, but there's even almost 300 lenders that are using the system here are even in a better place, because here at Sales Boomerang and Mortgage Coach, we don't just use one lender as the point of reference. We have almost 300. So guess what? When we see one super successful, right, we're getting everyone to over 50x ROI on their business. How do we help everyone get to over 50x ROI with every dollar they invest into something? That's the goal. And the way to get there is to have this intelligence provided, not guesswork, not fishing for information, but having a radar and going laser point, success, laser point, success. Josh, anything you want to add to this?
I kind of want to connect the dots for everything we've done so far, but I can wait till we get a little further down the road if you want to go into this next slide.
Yeah, I think this is, go Dave, again, you're on mute again, I think.
Yeah, before we go to this slide, go back a couple slides to because I want everyone to also realize the difference between advice and price. You're almost there. The next one right here, guys. Josh,
okay.
No, go, yep, right here. Josh, explain what you have on this slide, because I want to spend 2 minutes to make sure people recognize what a transactional loan officer looks like versus a value creation loan officer looks like. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so this was a total cost analysis that was put together because of a sales boomerang credit alert. So Drake Blaybaum, who's one of the best mortgage advisors in the entire country, heart bigger than Texas, gets this credit alert that his past client got their credit pulled, reaches out. How's it going, Spell? What's going? We just got an alert. You had a mortgage inquiry. What are you doing? Are you moving? You buying a house? Getting an equity line? What's happening in your life? They get into a conversation. They'd had their credit pulled by their bank, Bank of America, or one of the big block banks, and they were moving forward with a 15-year fixed, as I recall. They were moving forward with a 15-year fixed mortgage, and because they thought that the fastest way to wealth was to pay down their indebtedness as quickly as possible, and they wanted to do that with their mortgage. Well, Drake says that's a path to wealth for sure. Let me rerun you through these questions that we did 5 years ago when we bought the house, and let's update it. And guess what? In 5 years, they had made zero progress towards their retirement account. Zero. Because they had a practice loan for their medical practice. They installed solar panels. They put in a backyard. They built a pool. They still had 2 car loans, and they were putting kids now they're putting their kids through college. Wow. And so Drake said, okay, one path to wealth is certainly paying off this mortgage, but there is an alternative path. What if we extracted all the equity, or as much equity as we can leverage out of your home, and we paid off all of those indebtedness? That would free up, the number was $4,750 some odd dollars per month. And then what if we took that cash flow that you now have liberated into your family budget each month, and if we invested it at a 6% rate of return with your financial advisor? I don't have a financial advisor. It's okay. I know a financial advisor. I will make an introduction. We're going to make sure we get you on this path. But can I chart that for you and just show you what that might be able to do to impact your wealth? So he put together the options you see there. And we said, look, let's fast forward 30 years into the future and let's just time travel, right? Let's just, you and I get in the DeLorean. 30 years down the road, we're going to look at your balance statement. This is going to be cool. And he said, here's the different ideas. Current, if you do a new 30-year fixed, if we do this, if we do that, if we do this. And so we get to the final option, and they were able to figure out how to accelerate the payoff of their practice loan, pay off all the rest of their debts, cascade that $4,750 a month into an investment account, and their net worth went up by $4.3 million. He doubled their net worth by simply just showing them how to use leverage. And as a result of that, he made an introduction between them and a financial advisor, and they're now working together. All from one sales boomerang alert, all from calling just to be curious, to go back through the questions, to find out where they were with their financial goals, and realizing they got farther behind in 5 years than they got ahead in 5 years, showing them a different alternative path and making an introduction to an advisor. That's how we change the mortgage industry, Alex. That's right how we change this. That's how we improve communities across this entire freaking country. We have to shift from transaction and commission and volume to how many people we're helping, how much wealth we're creating for people.
Yes.
Do it. There's nobody else in the industry who has all the information or the knowledge that we do, brother.
That was a mic drop moment for everyone on this call that said, I'm here to learn how to increase volume. And for everyone that said they're here for another reason, you've just got the perfect formula, the perfect formula. Insights, presentation, caring. There it is. There it is. Empower your team to have that same experience, right? This is all available. This and education is available on this, information from how to best practice. It's all available. And here is the thing, all right? I know we're getting towards the end here. And I know we have a few questions, so we're going to try to get to those at the end if anyone wants to stay a little bit longer. Understand this, okay? The most valuable asset, as you heard Josh say, is your database. Most of you, 70% of you said you don't even know how much equity and how much of it is tappable. You don't need to say that anymore. That's no longer a problem. It's no longer an excuse. Sales Boomerang will give you that insight every single day. Your team will have a prioritized list of people to contact, the tappable equity that's available, and all of these other things. This is a great example, okay? This is a great example of what happens when you turn on this intelligence for you from day one. Literally, this is a real example. Some of you may have seen me use this example already in previous conversations. This is from this year, from 22, an organization that has 34,000 records from day one. Okay, day one. Whoops, they were able to get $39 million worth of opportunities in day one. $233 million worth of opportunities in week one, and nearly $900 million worth of opportunities from their customer base, your biggest asset. This wasn't referrals from outside. This wasn't buying leads. This wasn't hitting open houses. This is their customer base referring business back to them. It's a database referral, right? Referrals everyone loves. This is your database referring business to you, and nearly 900 million in the first month of opportunities. By the way, this organization, they did a little bit over, just slightly over $1 billion as an organization the previous year. And in 1 month, they got nearly $1 billion in opportunities from their database. That's how valuable your database is. And by the way, when you have these types of insights, guess what you do? Your agents get to benefit. We talked about this. You can literally double your agent's volume. This isn't a joke. This is for real, okay? You can help your agents go from, Dave, are you trying to say something? Because I'm missing, if you're on mute, if you are. So
No, I'm good. Keep rocking.
Okay, got it. So if your agent on average, right, about one a month, it's actually a little bit lower now because of the market itself. But if it's one, you can get them to 24 plus. Literally in the first 12 months of them working with you and getting these insights and you sharing those insights with them, you can double their volume. Who are they going to refer business to? You. Their business can look like this, right? This is what their business can look like. This is how you can help your referral partners. If they just have less than 1,000 people in their database, this is how you can impact their business, right? In just the first month, you can give them so much opportunity. They're going to be moving their zip code, okay? That's the beauty of getting insights and presentation, This is a fact. This is a real lender that in a 9-month period was able to generate $150 million worth of purchases for their referral partners, okay? In 9 months. 460, what's my number there? Whoopsie, I have it blocked by my chat section. 460 referrals to their agents, okay? Think about that for a second. Not their agents from around the country referring business to them, not hundreds of agents referring into one lender. One lender referred out 460 purchase opportunities. I mean, that is the power of managing your customer base. That is the power of managing your database. It is your biggest asset. And then you need a presentation. And then you need to be able to communicate it properly, right? When you have a digital presentation like what Mortgage Coach offers, you speed up the decision-making, and Josh can attest to this. You speed up the decision-making by nearly 3 times faster, because the confidence level is up here. The clarity of the benefit is up here. One organization you just heard, one example, $4.3 million additional wealth simply by being able to present it. Imagine you having to present that exact same message on black and white pieces of printed PDFs. Try to get someone to pay attention, stay focused, and actually understand what is written on those documents. No, Josh and his team use a presentation that anyone can understand. A 5 or 6-year-old can follow the purpose here. The stuff in green is good, right? In this area, in the center section, the stuff in green is good, the stuff in red, not so good. And then let's break it out over the course of 30 years, 15 years, whatever options you're presenting them. But don't make them look through paper. Let them see it, feel it, experience it, share it. And by the way, when you're using Mortgage Coach and you're sharing this information with your borrowers, the moment you hang up the phone, guess what? The system does not stop working. Josh will sit at home and get an alert that the borrower he presented loan options to yesterday are on the presentation right now, looking at it, sharing it with their husbands, their wives, their family. They're engaging with this digital presentation while Josh is not in the room, while his team is not in the room, and they know they're looking, they know they're interested, and guess what? It's a follow-up, it's a message, it's curiosity. And now they're getting to the loan and they're getting it completed. Josh, Dave, we've said a lot today. Look, I want to have some closing thoughts. Let me throw it to you, Josh, with a closing thought, then to you, Dave, with a closing thought, and then I'll wrap it all up. So let's do this fireside chat style and take off the share screen. Josh, what are your thoughts?
Well, team, I think it's up to all of us to change the industry. And up until this time, we've been okay. And we've gotten away with just selling debt to consumers and then moving on to the next consumer. And that's okay. We've done a lot of good for people by putting them in homes. But I'll go back to a previous statement. At this moment in time, we either act or we are acted upon. And the online lenders, the fintech that's coming in necessitate us evolving. And by the way, it's a hell of a lot of fun to show people how to make an extra $4.3 million over the lifetime with the same number of dollars leaving their checking account. So I'll just close out by saying, this isn't about the technology. It's about the belief that we're the captain of the wealth team, that we should be involved in that client's life forever, that clients don't know how to use leverage and equity. We do, we have the tools, but then you bring technology in to alert us when it's time to make the phone call and say, Alex, what's up? I just saw bank rate pulled your credit. What's happening, man? That gives us the ability to have a conversation that would otherwise be awkward. How was the lightning last night, Alex? Did you?
Yeah, exactly.
So it gives us a reason to talk. And then once we ask the right questions and we gain insight into Alex's life, we leverage the TCA to show them different strategies to build wealth. That's how we change the industry. We can do it, but we got to bring all those things together: the curiosity, the heart, the will, and the technology to change the industry.
I love it. What a great statement. Go ahead, Dave.
So here's the deal, guys. For the past 2 years, when a loan officer quoted a rate to a consumer, they weren't surprised or upset. They were either pleasantly surprised how low rates were, and there was an increase in amount of affordability that Americans had. Today, in today's market, consumers are either upset or surprised. That means they're going to shop you. This is a market to gain market share. The way you do that is you grow your database, you create value and clarity for those consumers, presentation, you build your database, and you know what? You don't lose a single lead, a single loan, a single basis point from your database. So make your database your priority. Make how you're getting to that database in a proactive, valuable way to the consumers, valuable way for you. Make sure you're presenting in the most valuable way. It's a conversion market. My dogs are going crazy.
Did they just see their TCA? Did they just find out how to make an extra $4.3 million? They're excited.
So my dogs liked what I had to say, by the way. Did you hear that? Yeah, Dad, go.
Preach, Papa.
That's right. Look, I almost feel like there's nothing else to say. You said it best, and Josh, you said it best as well. It's right here. Like the fact that all of this is available to you, it's up to you to make that decision. Push your team, encourage them to care, give them the resources, give them the tools. Do not, by the way, if you're on here still, listen, do not make the mistake of cutting away things that are going to be generating revenue for you in this market. Lean into it. While everyone else is running scared, you take advantage of all the opportunity that people are leaving behind. You do that. You invest while they run scared. Do not be those that just run away from this. Lean into this market, make the most of it, because after this, you are so much, I mean, your levels higher. So thank you all for joining. The MBA, thank you so much for allowing us to have your audience today and to share this knowledge with them, and the whole team that helped put this together, and everyone in the audience. Thank you so much for your time. You could have done anything else, but you were here, and we appreciate it.
Hey,
Thank you, everybody.
Get a demo of Sales Boomerang and Mortgage Coach, and watch the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. It's the best education in the mortgage industry. So stay curious, all.